Hey y'all, welcome back to the Power and Lifting Podcast. I'm your host, Solana Lewis. Today, me and Kristen dive into recovery modalities, some of the most popular ones we have been seeing lately. So we really dive into what we know and what we have looked into about cold water exposure, saunas, and massage therapy. And then we also talk about some other recovery methods that are really ideal that will help people with their overall training, and some things that you should not be doing that will also help you with your training. So great episode. I think this was an episode that I really enjoyed. By the end of it, we were both like, yo, that was a good conversation. So I hope you guys feel the same way. If you like this podcast, if it's not your first time here, especially, please do leave a rating and a review. If you're on Spotify, you can leave a rating. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a rating and a review. It helps so much to get this podcast out to more people and boost it higher on the charts. So let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. All right, y'all. We're back. Guess who's back? Back again. We took a whole week off. Not that I don't know if anyone noticed we took a week off, but here we are.
I was just thinking of the Backstreet Boys song. Backstreet's back. All right. My millennial is showing.
So fine. It's okay.
Great song, by the way. I think I was in like sixth grade when it came out.
I don't know. I was probably like high school.
High
Like,
school?
well, how
What?
old are you?
34?
I'm 27.
Yeah, that
I'm thinking
definitely
like the
came
end of
out.
high school.
You probably heard it for the first time in high school.
Maybe. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm actually really close to being on the cusp of Gen Z. I'm like on the cusp. I checked.
I'm a nice in between. Like I'm not an elder millennial, but I'm not the cutoff. I'm kind of right in between. So
Well, you're like, your age is showing. I'm like, my lack of age is showing because I really don't know when it came out, but at least I know the song.
such a good song. We're definitely going to play it at some point in this podcast.
Oh my God. Okay. Maybe I'll make that the intro song for this one episode.
Kristen and Solana are back. All right.
Okay, yeah, I'll change the lyrics too. I'll sing it myself, record it. Yeah, the whole production happening. All
There
right.
you go. There you go.
But what are we talking about today, Kristen?
Recovery or recovery modalities and which ones are worth your time and money and which ones you probably should just not avoid, basically.
I
Or
love it.
approach with caution. Approach with caution.
Yes, I like that one. Approach with caution, for sure.
Yes.
So right before we actually dive in, I just want y'all to know. So Kristen understands what actual research is, right? Because she's literally getting her doctorate. Now, you're getting it. You don't have it, right? You're getting it?
It's in the process.
Yeah, in the process of
So
getting.
we getting girl. I am a PhD student, which means absolutely nothing about having a deep understanding about research because even I still have to read some papers two or three times to be like, I have no idea what I just read. So I'm gonna have to Google this to try and figure out what is actually going on. So yeah, I think that's I think we were talking about this before. Some research studies try to make there's a lot of jargon to sound smart, but for no reason, which makes it difficult for people who may not have a understanding of research. Makes it harder for understand, but for no reason at all other than just to make it hard.
I love it. But my point with that was, so I will not misuse the term. I did not do research. I understand that's a deep dive where you might have your own freaking clinical trial. What I did was read some research articles. Okay,
That's
that's what I did.
that's a step up from a lot of people. So
And let me
I
tell y'all, I wanted to
congrats to
cry.
you.
I wanted to cry. So we're focusing on ice baths, sauna, and massage, and that's what I was looking into specifically for athletes. And like, I again just wanted to cry. A good solid hour and a half of me trying to determine what the hell I read. Yes, I know the chat GPT trick you told me, like type it in there, see if it helps out, but I was just struggling. But anywho's okay. We got some stuff to say at least. um,
And just
but
to so everyone knows what I mean when I put in chat GPT is sometimes if you read a paper and I'm like, dumb it down, I will just put it in chat GPT as like in layman terms. So I have a better understanding of what's going on. But even so, that's not always 100%, but that was just like my little cheat sheet for some people if needed.
it's everyone's cheat sheet. I literally got
Okay.
wrote a whole email to my list that was basically chat GPT. I was like, this is amazing.
Oh, really?
Yes, I was like, make a post about or make an email about like the importance of warming up, something like that, and like it just gave me a
Yeah.
beautiful. And I was like, I tweaked it myself. I was like, yes, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy kind of the things that like it can do.
I know.
So careful of that because it also doesn't know when it's wrong. So if I've ever asked it a question, it's always confident, right? So it's like if you
Mhm.
ever so it'll make something up sometimes. So that's definitely something you want to be aware of if you ever choose to use it.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, so I want to start with ice baths, and I'm excited to hear you talk about it because you actually made a post about it that I loved. The research article I was looking at, so of course, there's no research article about powerlifters taking ice baths, no, but or that I could find that was specifically powerlifters only in a trial taking ice baths. But what I did
Yeah.
find, but what I did find was they a study where they looked into winter swimmers who literally was
Hmm.
obviously swimming outside in the winter, and that was their cold water exposure, and looking at if that gave them any sort of positive benefits outside of them doing actual training, which I found interesting because a lot of this was basically inconclusive, but it did say that overall cold water exposure did help them relieve pain where they were in pain, they be in less pain after they were done. It also said that it could help relieve or improve depression, but the study had a very small number of participants, and also it said that swimmers had more energy afterwards. However, not much more than the control group that was not using cold water exposure.
Hmm.
So basically, it could improve energy. It could help you with pain relief. And then this particular study said that it mentioned like using it after working out would be great, but I'm like, I don't understand that one because if now I'm thinking in strength training terms, right? If I do an SBD session, do I'm gonna jump in cold water right after and constrict my veins and like slow down blood flow really because we all know heat equals dilation of the veins and more blood flow. So
Hmm.
seeing that, I was like, well, this again, inconclusive, small control group. Was it really that great? I doubt it. But overall, I can say at least with myself, I've done like twice some ice baths. And I do it way after training, like even on recovery day where I'm not training at all. And all I really get from it is like I feel like it's just mentally I'm overcoming something that I find to be terrible. I hate being cold. Therefore, I have a rush of adrenaline just because I did something hard. But I'm truly not convinced that ice baths really help with full on recovery. I'm not convinced. I don't really get it.
Right.
That's where I'm at. I also find it interesting. Um, there was a Huberman Lab interview with David Goggins. I listened to the whole thing. I loved it because I read David Goggins' book, so I was like, I have to hear this one. And what I love that they mention, where is it? Okay, so Huberman said that there's the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is a section in your brain that apparently is a newer discovery. Again, this is from people in lab. Okay. But what they did say is that it's bigger in people who are athletes. It's bigger in people who are more physically fit. Why? Because it literally grows when you do something that's mentally tough that you don't enjoy, but you force yourself to do it over and over again. So I was like, that's interesting to me because I can see how just simply doing something that's really you don't want to do, like taking an ice bath, can just help you get mentally tougher and make you want to do things that are harder, which could then help you in your training because you're getting used to doing stuff that's hard, like going for a new more max. I can see the mental benefit of it. I'm still personally not seeing the physical benefit of it. That's where I'm at with ice baths.
So I think you kind of nailed it on the head. So the Huberman podcast, and I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding him particularly, because sometimes he can get out of his area of expertise. So he's a neuroscientist, right? So I believe the podcast with Goggins, when they were talking about ice baths, were about the mental effects and the effects that it has on the brain. And there's some research that shows that, maybe it can enhance mood, help with anxiety and depression. I haven't looked too much into that just because that's really, number one, not my area of uh, interest or expertise. Specifically for us as a power lifter, we're not going into these cold exposures. We're not swimming in the Pacific Ocean, training for cold exposure. So for us, when we're using these ice baths, we are using them as a recovery modality, right? So our goal as power lifters is to be as strong and also as muscular, I guess, as possible, right? And to recover. So that's the reason that most people are going to use ice baths for. So if your goal is to reduce, for more of like the mental toughness and that side, like by all means, um, you do you, boo boo. But if your goal is to get stronger and to recover, um, ice baths are kind of a little iffy in that category. So when people think of ice bath, and basically what happens is that you get into this water, and it narrows your blood vessels, right? Then you get out of the water, and then your body begins to warm up. So the theory behind that is it's going to help with reducing inflammation. And because of this reduced inflammation, it's going to therefore reduce that soreness that our muscles will often feel after a workout. Now, that's saying that that inflammatory response that we get is a bad thing, right? That we don't want it. Because I think just inflammation is just kind of a negative connotation. You think of it as a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are lifting weights and you're training and your muscles adapt, that inflammation process is basically like a key signal for your body to grow and repair. So that's what happens is that after you're lifting weights and the quote unquote muscle damage, how your body adapts is through this inflammation. So you actually want some of this inflammation to occur because it now, without getting in too deep, it signals these like muscle protein building pathways, right? So we want that. We want some of that inflammation. And so this cold exposure can reduce that. So not to say that it's never okay to use an ice bath, because maybe, for example, if you are an athlete, say, I don't know, football, soccer, and you got like these back-to-back games within a 48-hour rest in between, and maybe you want to reduce as much inflammation as possible for that next session, then maybe, yeah, it's a good idea. But if you're doing a ice bath after every single workout, you're going to hinder that inflammatory response that is going to result in muscle adaptation. So in that aspect, cold exposure is not a good thing. And I will be honest that I have used it, and I will tell my athletes the time to use uh an ice bath or some sort of cold water therapy would be during a time where you're trying to reduce, I guess, inflammation, right? And we don't even know like if that's what cold exposure does. Like there's so much that goes into protein synthesis and all that stuff. So even inflammation does not necessarily directly correlate with muscle soreness. So that's just a whole nother topic. Anyway, if you are going to, I would say somewhere during a deload week, or maybe if you're tapering for a powerlifting meet where you want to reduce as much inflammation as possible so that you're coming in ready for competition. So I would just be very, very careful about when you're using it. And probably the worst time to do it is immediately after a workout, which is what I think basically what most people do. You know, it's like, oh, I've had this intense workout, let me go recover. And it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of this opposite effect of what you actually think is going on.
Love
Is
it.
that enough? Did that make sense? Did
Yes.
I?
No, every word made sense.
Okay.
Every single word made
Okay, good.
sense.
Okay, good. Good, good. Cool. So, yes,
You're
if
not
your
using
goal
any
is
big
to,
scientific words.
yes. And that's also with muscle growth too. So just to even make it more complicated, there's less. So there's some evidence of even just because there has been a reduction or a limited reduced rate of protein synthesis after cold exposure, that didn't mean that there was a reduction in strength. But this was like one study, right? Again, at the end of the day, we don't know, but also there is this a correlation that we believe between muscle growth and strength. So if you're reducing muscle growth or limiting its ability for your muscles to grow, potentially limiting muscle strength. So there's that.
No, that all makes sense. I'm happy you just clarified. Like, there's a time and a place where it could be helpful, and there's a time where it's like very highly likely that it's not being helpful at all. So you use
Yes.
caution. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And this goes into even people who take NSAIDs, so like ibuprofen, right? And ibuprofen is an anti-inflammatory. It's a
Yes.
pain reliever. So that's kind of the idea with cold exposure too. But for those who are taking ibuprofen before every single training session, they're reducing that inflammatory response. And therefore, over time, they're limiting their ability for potential growth. That said, I 110% take ibuprofen before a powerlifting meet.
I was about to say, I was like, that's my question. Hold the phone, pause. Are we hurting ourselves? Because I know a lot of people who take ibuprofen for every single meet. I don't, but I'm like, wait, hold.
Yes. But that's to say that you don't want to do it every single training session. It's like if you're going to, do it before a big meet, don't do it every training session. Don't use it as a pre-workout because it's not.
Yeah, no, that makes sense though, because even when you think about it, at a meet, like, I mean, it depends on how heavy you go, but we're doing 9 lifts versus every training session where you might be there for 2 hours doing like 20% more sets. You know what I mean? Just a lot more work overall than you do at a
Hmm.
meet. So that can make sense where it's like, do before training and do for a meet. We're not here to get an inflammatory response and have protein synthesis and blah, blah, blah. We're just here to compete and go home. Like, that's it. Like,
Like, I'm not recommending that you take ibuprofen before a meet, but I'm also not recommending it. Where I'm just,
no,
hey,
I hear you. It's just,
I'm
I know
just
so many people who
giving,
do it. So.
oh, 100%. Yeah, so do I. Like I said, I do it. Do I recommend it? You know, it is what it is.
All right.
So next one. So hopefully that made sense for people. And again, if your goal is you don't really care if for muscle growth and you want to use it more as like this mental toughness training, that's different. So at the end of the day, it's really going to depend on what your goals are.
I love it.
Okay.
Okay, the sauna. The sauna.
I like the sauna.
I just got into it. Like my gym has a sauna, and I've been at this gym since like mid 2020. Yeah, maybe the end of
Hmm.
2020. And I just started using the sauna literally the end of last year. Cause I just like never go to the locker room. And now I go every week, like 3 times a week, like at least 10 minutes, sometimes 20 at most, if I can get myself to sit through it for 20 minutes after training.
Yeah.
And I love it. I can't believe how much I love it. Here's
So,
my reason. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. I want to hear.
All
Yeah,
right.
I want to hear what you've
So
learned so far.
I'll say why I personally like it, and then the little bit I did find from the things that I looked up.
Mhm.
So personally, for me, I see it as a time to like call. Well, cool down is literally the worst word to use here. You can't say cool down, but I see it as a time to like kind of get myself to relax after a workout, and then the heat just has me feeling like I can feel like my body just likes it. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like it feels really good after I finish training. My muscles feel like they're relaxing, and like the blood flow is
Mhm.
just so good. I can like feel like I have great circulation. I just like the feel of it overall. Um I only again I do it after. I see people in there doing it before all the time. Now I don't know what their training regime is. They're not powerlifters doing it before, but I saw a lot of people go in there and they do it before they work out. I can see the benefit of that in the sense of we're in New Jersey and right now there's ice outside, but like there are people who do it all the time, and I'm not. For me, I don't see the benefit of doing it if it's like warm outside. Why are you gonna get hotter just to train and lift weights? I don't really get that. What I did find, this is actually like on Nike.com, but it was like about an actual little a small. It's the I don't know if the word study is the right word. I'm so scared to use the wrong word. Yo, I just have a
It's
bachelor's, all right?
okay.
I just have a bachelor's.
That is, that's more than
Most people
plenty.
have.
Plenty. Yes.
But anywho, so this aforementioned study found when they had a group of men only that after a 30-minute session in an infrared sauna, it decreased post-workout muscle soreness and it boosted their recovery. In particular, the men performed better doing the counter movement jump test, which is an exercise that measures lower body power, after they sat in the sauna after their 40-minute endurance, not even strength training, endurance workout.
Yeah.
So what I took from that is that just being physically warm can just help you, which makes sense because what do? We literally warm up before we start training, right? So I just see the benefit
Mhm.
of getting physically warm. I can see the benefit of like obviously heat equals more dilation in your veins so that we have better blood flow. I can see that benefit. I don't really know how much it will help recovery, but to me personally, it feels good. And from what I looked up, I didn't see any negatives of doing it as long as you don't try to surpass 20 minutes. That's what I kept finding. Don't pass 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Now that being said, like, but how hot is it? Like, can I do 30 minutes if it's not as hot as your sauna? I don't even know. No one really says a specific number not to pass. So like there we go again. Inconclusive. But like overall, I can just see a benefit of like 10 to 20 minutes after working out to feel good, get your body to relax a little bit, get better blood flow, and then go about your day.
Yeah. So I actually, like I said, I actually don't mind like a sauna therapy after a workout. I guess it doesn't seem to really enhance performance. It's not like you're gonna hit a squat 1 RM just by doing sauna, but it doesn't really seem to have any like negative impacts. Again, as long as you limit exposure. The problem would come more with more uh like special vulnerable populations. So people with, like high blood pressure, like histories of heart attacks or like dehydration. Um, those are going to be more of like things that you want to consider. But I would say most athletes are pretty healthy, so they wouldn't really have to worry about that other than like a dehydration risk, just from the fluid loss from sweating. But again, I think if you're in there for 10, 15, even 20 minutes, I don't think there's going to be, hopefully, not much of that risk. Just, yeah, drink some water after a workout. What I find interesting more is kind of like the benefits of cardiovascular health and sauna. And there's like one study that they did in like Finland, where they were comparing sauna use, and they basically found that there was a correlation. Again, correlation is not causation. That sauna use was correlated with a lower risk of people dying from cardiovascular disease or coronary heart disease. So again, when you're talking about like that increased blood flow, I think that there's potential benefit for cardiovascular health. Again, it's not going to be this like magic pill, but it does seem to have some benefit. And if anything, it doesn't really seem to negatively impact performance when used within reason. And it feels good. Again, I
It does feel
love
good.
going in the sauna just because it feels good and I like being warm. I hate the cold. That's
Me
why I
too.
moved out of
That's
New
why
York, because
I
I was like, first thing I did when I graduated high school, I went to college in Tampa, Florida, because I was
Yep.
like, after this, I am done with the snow. I'm done with the cold. It's not my jam.
Yeah, I'm sure you're not missing the ice storm we basically had yesterday and how I nearly killed myself getting out the car today, just like slipping and sliding around.
Girl, I was at the beach last week.
Oh my
Okay.
God, I
I
can't.
was stuck. I got stranded in Cabo because of that whole Alaska Airlines situation. I don't know if you've heard. This is completely off topic, but yes, I was stranded. Unfortunately, poor me was stuck in Cabo for an extra few days because my flight was canceled.
Love it. I didn't know about the Alaska airline thing, but hey, you got a couple more days in Cabo or another day. Sounds pretty good.
2 days. Yeah, the panel flew
Oh,
off
nice.
apparently in flight. In like the yeah, like the exit row. It wasn't my flight, but it was the model that we would have flown back. The panel flew off while the plane was in the air.
Mhm. Got it.
Yeah. No one died, nobody was hurt,
As long as no one
but
died.
they decided just for safety purposes that they grounded all of those model planes just as a precaution, and so ours was canceled.
Got
Unfortunately.
it.
Anyway, all right. So what's another popular recovery modality that a lot of lifters like to use?
Massage.
Ooh. All
Massage.
right. Full disclosure, I do like my massage from time to
I
time.
love massages.
Um, so good. All right. So tell me what you think about massage.
All right. So the one thing I will say with it, so what I looked up was another article here. And overall, the gist of this article was research has failed to demonstrate massage can significantly contribute to the reduction of pain associated with DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, or significantly enhance sports performance and recovery, or even play a big role in rehabilitation or sports injuries. Okay, cool. However, right, so let's talk about first of all, there's different kinds of massages, right? So there's deep tissue, which is I feel like is the most popular one, and there's actual sport massages. I've tried both. For myself, I typically get a massage once a month and once every other month. I'm very careful about when I get it. So, because my girl, like she does very specific body parts only, because I know her very well, and it's a legit deep tissue. Like I'm trying not to cry. She is like in there with her elbow. Okay, so for me, I get it either the first week or second week of my training block because those are the lighter weeks. But I'll also do it earlier in the morning of a day where I don't have to train, and where the next day I train a little bit later in the day. So I'm trying to give myself more than 24 hours, but also the next training day cannot be super intense. Like for example, if she's gonna really nail my back, it can't be before I do a back workout. But I might have her do that before my lighter session of like bench press. It won't kill me for my bench, right? So I'm just very specific about that because you are literally digging in and relaxing a muscle a lot. And it's like a lot of work she's doing on specific muscles that they don't get touched that often. So if you relax the muscle too much and then you try to put on underneath a load, that can lead to like an injury. Especially if you're going really heavy for powerlifting. So I'm very careful about that. I've also tried sport massage, and what I've had with sport massage is literally instead of doing like slow, deep kneading movements, they're going fast paced. It's like fast paced. It's almost like it reminds me in a way of massage guns. Not obviously it's the human beings; they're not going that fast. Okay, but like they go fast paced and they don't get too deep into it. It's kind of like they're like in a way it feels like they're waking up my muscles. Like it feels good. It's fast. They don't stay on one muscle too long. They will kind of do my whole body, and everything feels like it kind of just like woke up. I can do a massage like that, and I can train the very next morning or within even like that same night, and I'm good to go because I'm not going too deep because it's not for recovery. It's more so just to like get certain muscles to kind of feel a little bit better. So
Mhm.
those are different. But the biggest thing I'll say is like the positives I see with massage is number one, if you really like physical touch, like you know, like especially when it comes to really sore muscles, if you're like that person who's like, oh, you're rubbing yourself, you're like, I'm so sore. Like it's gonna feel so good that'll help you to relax. So mentally, I love massages. Physically, I like the feeling of the massage. Does it really get me to recover that much faster? I mean, I leave massages feeling more sore than when I came there. So, like, do I really recover faster? I don't know. But if it just feels good and you're working with someone who's not going to get you hurt, because some people don't know what they're doing, um, I see the benefit of it. But I wouldn't go to it because, like, I'm trying to necessarily get my recovery to be so much faster. That's my thought
Yeah.
process.
Yes. So with and again, a lot of these are gonna be my opinions too. I genuinely enjoy massages. I think they feel good. I like physical touch. I would argue that most people like physical touch. Um, I will say that I think so sometimes the way that massage therapy is marketed, you know, for athletes is that it's going to you know, reduce pain in like detox or whatever. I love the word detox because no one knows exactly
Because no
like
one knows
what does
what the
that
hell that
mean?
means.
Like, what are you
I thought
detoxing?
I thought that was my liver's job. I thought my liver did that, but apparently you do it.
No, it's tea. It's the detox tea. Okay. Detox tea with your detox massage. All
Yes.
right. That's the magic. So I think sometimes people again is like this magic, I don't know, detox. They're gonna have these reduce these adhesions in their muscle that's going to release these toxins from the body and it's gonna I don't know, make you no pain, reduce symptoms, lactate removal, accelerate, whatever, like these, I don't know, crazy things that people promote it as. And there has been studies that I think that have looked at um, like blood lactate removal and massages have not necessarily shown to enhance that process. Um, but that's not to say that like a massage doesn't work. It's just to say that I don't think it works the way in which people think that it does. And so to give an example is like people always talk about like muscle adhesions and you know you're going to put your thumb on your trap muscle and it's going to I don't know break up this adhesion in your
Yes.
muscle
The trigger
or
point
whatever
therapy.
and can I just say that if that were true your ass cheek would be flat as a pancake because like think about it right if you're sitting on a chair and you had these muscle adhesions you would have a flat ass so
You're like, and my ass is not flat, okay?
I promise you that your deep tissue massage it might be helpful, but not in the way that you think it is. And if it was, that would be a bad thing because again, you would have a flat ass and you wouldn't want that. So your muscles are a lot uh putting your finger on a muscle is not going to get rid of whatever adhesion you think is there. What you're doing again is when you were talking about the sensation of touch and it feels good. And so, more the benefits of massage are going to be more psychological and relaxing your nervous system more so than it would be any sort of like real physical alterations in your muscle.
I
And
like
that
it.
will kind of lead yeah, it feels good. It feels good. It relaxes your muscles, but it's more of like a psychological relaxation than any sort of like physical changes. And that will probably, so that would be similar to like foam rolling and percussive therapy, because that's kind of essentially what the same, it's like a self-induced massage, right? Is what foam rolling and um percussive like massage guns are. It's kind of like a more practical mobile version of getting a massage. So essentially it's going to be the same thing. I will say that, so doing like a massage gun or foam rolling, as far as recovery, the it's kind of limited as far as like, oh, it's going to improve recovery for strength athletes. But if you are kind of certain limitation, you have like an ankle mobility or some sort of mobility issue, not issue, it's not an issue, but just a mobility, some mobility that you want to work on, right? And
Yeah.
you put a little bit of foam rolling, it can temporarily increase the flexibility or stretch the muscle. And so it might be helpful as like as form of like a pre-workout, not pre-workout, pre-warm-up or part of your warm-up session to kind of get blood flow moving, warm up those muscles, improve flexibility. Uh, but those results, it's only acute, and so it seems that after about like 20, after an hour, it kind of goes back to baseline. So it peaks around, I think the study that I wrote in the post that I made, about 20 minutes. So the effects are kind of temporary, but if you only need to squat to parallel for your top set, it's fine. But as far as like a recovery tool, I would say, again, it feels good. That pressure, it might help you to relax a little bit. Um, and so it might be helpful in certain situations where, you want to improve flexibility or mobility in certain muscles. So it could be used as part of like a warm-up routine. Or it's also an inexpensive way to get a massage
Yeah.
if you can't, because
Yep.
massages are expensive. So you can foam roll, and it's cheaper.
Yep. No, I'm happy you mentioned like the short term acute effects because that's something I did want to talk about. How it does have an effect. It just is very short term. Like, yes, you can do some stretching before you squat if you literally are like, hey, this helps me reach depth. Do it right before, but like, just be aware you're gonna have to keep doing that before you squat, so that you can get the
It's
change and the effect.
Yeah, it's a temporary yeah, increase in mobility that will typically return to baseline. That's not to say that if you were to do it consistently, like your ability will likely improve. But they also there was one study where they compared traditional stretching to foam rolling, and there wasn't a difference. So they both were helpful. So it's not like you need a foam roller to improve flexibility. It's just one modality that you can use. Maybe you prefer it over a traditional stretching, dynamic stretching warm up protocol. But there's it doesn't matter. It's just a preference.
Yeah.
So,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Like it. All right, now let's dive into the recovery that really matters that a lot of people are lacking.
So, the most important form of recovery that you should be doing before you ever even consider doing any of these other recovery strategies is going to be, let's hear it, drum roll, please, Solana.
Sleeping.
Yeah. And eating.
Yes, but you said one, so I was literally like,
uh,
"Is it sleeper food? Is it sleeper food?" I was really mad. I'm like, bro.
So, yes, just good recovery is going to require good sleep, good nutrition, and good
Exactly.
training. Not a, you don't want to be on a shitty program.
Very true. But yeah, sleep is huge because I mean, I would say at least 7 to 9 hours, and it really does depend on the person. I'm a person, if I get less than 8 hours, it's a wrap. The day is trash. The day is trash. I will literally feel more sore unless I sleep a full 8 hours. It's that deep. Like I have friends who can get away with 6 to 7 and they survive and they're improving in training and stuff. I'm like, no, my training actually goes downhill when I get like 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night. So it's the most important thing. It's the time to recover is when you are sleeping.
Yeah. And that's really interesting to talking about like getting enough sleep. And so one of the interesting things, especially in powerlifting, especially as you get up to this higher level where you're crossing time zones. So you might be competing at 2 a.m. your time because you're someplace in Europe in a competition. And that can definitely have uh, impact your performance if you don't take the necessary steps beforehand to um, try to negate that. And that would
Hmm.
be, getting there a few days beforehand, to try and adjust to the time change. Not that I really would ever, recommend any dietary supplements, but, taking melatonin can potentially help with some jet lag purposes if you use it in the short term. So that could be a potential option. There was a study, and I haven't read it recently, but they compared, it was on football, American football, and there's like East Coast and West Coast. And it was like this observational, over the course of, and I'm making this number up, so if I'm wrong, I apologize, but about 20 years, say, where they were comparing, these East Coast teams playing on the West Coast versus the West Coast teams when they would play on the East Coast. So basically like traveling or their home games, and showing that it was when the West Coast lifters were on the West Coast side that there's like a greater percentage of these teams winning the games because it's 6 o'clock West Coast time, whereas on the East Coast, it's 9 p.m. And they're probably used to training during the day, where if this game starts at 9 p.m. East Coast time, or not 9 p.m., sorry, like 6 p.m., it's done at what? That's probably even early. Was it like 3? I don't know. I'm not a big football, but what I
Me
can say
neither,
is if
but I got you.
these time differences affected their performance, and that the West Coast teams are more likely to lose games when traveling across these time zones due to a lack of quality sleep.
Ain't that the truth? Because
And
sleep,
I'm
yes.
sure that there's been people who've, in school, and they stayed up all night studying for an exam, and then they go to the gym and they probably, wow, this feels like shit.
Yep. Oh my God. Wait, let me just say real quick. I probably mentioned this on our podcast I've done, but there was a time in my life where I was like chronically sleep deprived, working 3 jobs, and this was when I was powerlifting. This is before
Hmm.
Worlds. This must have been like 2016 to 2018. And just long story short, my training felt like actual dog shit for like the entire 2 years.
Yeah.
And my life was crumbling apart as I knew it. And it was all because I wasn't getting sleep. Like I could
Yeah.
not stay awake while training just felt heavy all the time. I felt terrible all the time, but I was unaware of how sleep deprived I was. So like
Hmm.
going fast forward to 2024, I look back, I'm like, yo, that was such a horrible time. Sleep, like not getting sleep, I felt crazy sometimes. I actually felt delusional.
Oh, I'm a monster if I don't get my sleep. I am the worst person.
Yes,
You would hate me. And without my morning coffee.
fair, fair. Like I'll
Because
let you
like
take it.
I haven't had my cup of coffee yet. Don't talk to me. I am not human yet.
I feel you. I feel you. So that's a big deal. And then
Yes.
nutrition, like we already talked about, that's extremely important, especially y'all. We strength athletes, please be eating your protein. Like I always recommend I go with the standard old 1 gram per body weight, per pound of body weight. Like it can be slightly less, it can be slightly more, but overall keep it around there. You should be in a good spot. Eat enough carbs to support your training, please. Eat enough fats to
Hmm.
support your training. Like just eat enough. For me, that the
Yes.
biggest thing for me, kind of obviously people struggle with overeating. For me, it's always been eating enough. As someone who like I used to be very skinny, like not even college, high school, middle school, very, very skinny and extremely weak. Like I did not work out at all until I got to college. So like I did sports, but like I couldn't do push up like at all. And I remember I look back now, I'm like, I underate so bad. Even in the beginning of my career powerlifting, I underate so bad. I didn't realize it. I just would like eat
Mhm.
twice a day and I don't know, that was it. And I got busy and
Yes.
da, da, da. And I'm like, wow, like it's a whole different story when you're eating enough protein, eating enough carbs, eating enough fats, and you can actually prepare yourself to have pre-workout meals that are high enough in the fat adjusting carbs and your protein that you feel good for the whole training session. Cause I don't know about you, but if you ever done a training session hungry, it's like what are we doing? Like, oh, why am I here? Like you just want to die.
Mhm.
And then you that's how you start to hate training when you're miserable doing it because you're hungry. That's when you start to
Yeah.
despise the training.
I also get lightheaded, especially if I'm going have you ever, like, squatted or deadlifted and it's like your eyes are open, but it's like you black out,
Yes.
or you see a
The
little, they
stars,
come like the
the green and
stars, and I'm
black.
like, "Oh,"
Yes.
like, I need some gummy bears.
Yup. I'm about to say
I
blood
need
sugar.
something. Yeah. So, nutrition, especially like acutely, like you said, if you work out without eating, sometimes like I will get dizzy. I have never passed out, but blacked out where I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna fall over. But yeah, for long term, nutrition is important. Getting in adequate protein. I like the 1 gram per pound of body weight is a great starting point. I think it's easy for most people to remember. Protein and carbs, ideally around your training session and spread throughout the day. If you're not eating enough or eating adequate calories or protein, it's like, why are you gonna spend $200 on a massage when you can't even eat a freaking chicken breast for dinner or whatever, you know?
Go to Costco and buy some chicken breast. Stop buying the massages.
Yeah, you're spending $500 on a massage gun, but you're sleeping 5 hours a night.
I love it. That's the way to do
So,
it.
yes. And so I think the last thing that we wanted to kind of touch on, and I wanted to be a little bit more open about my own struggles with alcohol and obviously its effects on recovery and performance. And the reason that I have decided to kind of become a little bit more open about it and my struggles with overconsumption of alcohol is because I do think that it's probably number one, it's taboo. So a lot of people who may be struggling might be uncomfortable talking about it. I know I've been uncomfortable and I still am extremely uncomfortable talking about it just because it is so taboo. Um, I think it goes without saying that everyone knows that drinking is not good for you, that it's going to, impact your recovery. I knew that even while I was heavily drinking, I know it's not good for my health. But that again, it didn't stop me. Um, I will say that I am currently, as of May 25th, 2023, uh, no drinking. I have had like a sip here and there, so I don't want to say I haven't like been I'm alcohol free. I have had a sip. I've tasted. Okay, God, let me.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
But the effects or the impacts that it's had on my mental health, my ability to train, my clarity, my ability to work has done more so than anything and everything that we could probably ever do for recovery. And our mental health. And not only that, but the way that it helped me was really learning of what it does to your brain, and it literally kills your brain cells and makes you stupid. And so, I mean, it kills so brain gray matter specifically. Um, Whenever I was like in this craving mode, I would just Google like everything it was going to do to me, and then I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be stupid. Maybe we can go more in depth with that, like in another podcast about drinking. But I
Mhm.
can say as part of nutrition, let's just say it's not great for recovery.
Thank you for, opening up. And I'll for myself too, and I did mention this to you before the podcast. I have never been someone who drinks a lot, but I'm a social drinker. So if we're going
Yeah.
out and people are drinking, I am drinking 100% every single time. Like that was
Hmm.
always me. And it doesn't mean I was
Yeah.
getting drunk necessarily, but I was having 1 to 4, it depending on how long we're there, especially as someone who's a
Hmm.
lightweight. So like for me, and even 1 glass of like wine, I will feel dehydrated unless I have like a full like gallon of water to follow it. I mean, truly, it's like absurdly insane to me. And
Yeah.
I decided in December, I was listening to a DOAC, which is Diary of a CEO podcast,
Yeah.
where, Kristen, but I forget her last name. Her name is Kristen something, but she is like really high up in Whoop, like working for the company Whoop.
Oh yeah, I think I'm familiar. I Yes, yes.
Yes. So
I know what you're
she
talking about.
really, yes. And this podcast really helped me push to a tipping point of I think I want to like try no drinking at all because
Yeah.
it really talked about how your body knows when you've had even just 1 glass of wine. Your recovery is always lower when you've had just one drink. Like, and then you wearing the watch, like it will show you. And she was just giving an example, and it's like your watch will ask you, like the Whoop watch will ask you, like, "Oh, were you out drinking? Did you like go partying? Did you like run a like not run a marathon? I'm exaggerating, but it's like
Yeah, it can tell.
what high stress thing happened because your sleep was not deep at all, even though
Hmm.
you were here in the bed for 8 hours. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, as an athlete who needs my sleep, like if one drink can do that, and like sometimes I'll socially have 2 or 3 or 4, like what's it doing? And so forget about just the hangover that you might get or like drinking electrolytes to help it. It's like this is not helping me in any way. And if it's hurting me, I'm like, why am I doing it? And then when I dig into my why, just like mentally, it's like, I'm drinking because everyone else is. Now,
Yep.
Solana, let's think about this. Do I do anything else in my life because everyone else is? Like, come on now. Like, do I just I could use that
Yeah.
excuse for a bunch of stuff. It just doesn't make sense for me and who I am. So we're gonna see how the year goes. And I'm not the kind of person who's like, and I'll never even touch it or sip it. Because if I get too extreme, I can't. But like since like the probably mid December, I haven't been drinking, and now it's January 17th. I want to see like how long I can go. And it's been really revealing to me. Like New Year's Eve, I just drank water and iced tea. I was the only person
Hmm.
who was fully sober, and I survived. And I was like, "That's a big deal for me. I've never gone to a party completely sober in my life. I
Yeah.
mean, since
Isn't
I was
it
21."
great? It's actually really funny going out and then you watch other people who've been drinking. You're like, oh my God, that was me. Oh my
That
God,
was me.
I'm that
That's
drunk.
what
That
happened.
was me. Oh
I was
God,
like, "Yo, do I do that? Am I that annoying?"
I am I was like, I am way more annoying than I thought I ever was. Another thing too, and just very briefly to touch is that's another thing too. It's like this social. So it's like a psychological thing. It's like I used to think that I have to, in order for me to be social, I have to drink. I don't know. I'm uncomfortable talking to people. And instead of, it's like, well, you kind of got to think about why and work out like what is it that makes you uncomfortable or what makes you think that you need to drink in order to have a good time in this social situation. This is obviously a topic for another time that we can get into. Also, there's no healthy level for a long time. I think the current recommendations, and I believe that they will be changing this soon, like CDC, 1 drink a day for women and 2 drinks a day for men is what's considered like moderate drinking, and 7 drinks for women a week, obviously not in a day, 14 for men. They're now saying that even that amount is still showing negative effects on our health. So really what we're starting to learn is that there is no amount that is okay. It's a drug. It socially acceptable, and I think that's why people are so okay with it. Um, but I will admit this is that I have gone to AA meetings and I'm still actively, actually I lied. I've skipped a couple.
But you
I've
still
gone
gone.
to, but I have gone and I had to, you kind of have to, I guess, shop around, if that makes sense, to find a group that you really connect with because each one
Mhm.
is very, very different. But once I did that, I've been able to stay sober. Um, and one of the things that they learned or that what really stuck with me, if this is something that someone is considering, even if they don't struggle with alcohol abuse or anything, they're just kind of sober curious, is just don't drink today. You can drink tomorrow if you want to. Just make it through today. And instead of, because that was the thing, I'm like, do I want to stop drinking forever? Is this something that I just need to take a step away from temporarily? Can I just be a casual drinker? Is it possible? And so it's just like, stop worrying about that. Who cares? Don't drink today. You can drink as much as you want tomorrow. And then you wake up the next day and it was kind of like, just don't drink today. You can drink tomorrow. And when
Mhm.
you look at it like that, it's so much easier than, oh my God, I'm never going to drink ever again in my life. It's not as big of
Daunting.
a change. Yeah, it's not as
Yeah.
of a daunting. So take it one day at a time. And that's kind of what I've learned. So yeah, we can chat about that'll have to be another conversation because I do think that could be a full podcast.
All right. Well, y'all heard it here. We're gonna do a podcast on that in the very near future. But thank
Yeah.
you for opening up, and I loved this conversation.
This was a really good conversation. I like this one a lot.
Hey, I'm excited. Let's see how it does.
Yeah. Please
But
like us.
please subscribe to the podcast, y'all. Please share with a friend and please leave a review if you're on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you all and catch you next time on the Power and Lifting Podcast.